In fact, we have all types of volcanoes. In terms of shield volcanoes, where can we find a shield volcano in Utah? Just remember? Emerald Butte. In the Black Rock Desert. We can find a shield volcano. Composite. We've got Marysville. Big pink spot on the geologic map of Utah. It's really, really big. We also have the Chishire Mountains. And these are all about, let's say about 30 million years old. And we also have cinder cones. Pretty much the lower half of Utah. But what's important about the cinder cones? What do we like about one cinder cone in particular? Topaz. Topaz. Our youngest one, by Kanab, is 600 years old. Right. The youngest volcanic eruption, 600 years old. We also have Topaz Mountain, which is a rhyolite dome. That includes our state mineral. Topaz is the Utah state mineral. If you want to go down there this summer, I can give you directions. I can go with you. I can show you where the barrel is. It'd be a grand old time. We will not be bringing explosives. Sorry. Since I'm a professor and all, they kind of don't like that. Should make you athletes come and do that like for 15 minutes straight, as fast as you can, lift these boards up. You will be ripped in no time. You'll also be covered in chalk dust. So then you can go rock climbing. Whoa, I've got a new rock climbing training series. This is going to be great. All right, then we have the Eruption Styles. Now the slides were fairly, lots of words. What's a word for that? There were lots of words on the slide. Big thing I want you guys to remember, so Eruption Styles. Verbose. Verbose, yes, they were very verbose. Thank you. Okay, so the Hawaiian side. Right. We all know this about it. It's calm. It's got fluid lava and low silica. So it's not very explodey. In comparison, we have some other ones. We have the Strombolian. Strombolian. No, it's an I. Strombolian volcano. Short-lived. It is explosive, but only tens to hundreds of meters high. So it's kind of fun to watch. Not really anything to go out of your way for. This is in comparison to the Vulcanian. Vulcanian eruption. This is a little more violent. This has the cannon-like explosions. We have our high-velocity bombs. blocks. And instead of tens to hundreds of meters, we're talking 5 to 10 kilometers of air. So more violent. Then we have the Plinian. This is a large eruption after a long quiet period. Pompeii is a perfect example of this. What is our most violent type of eruption? Or who can give me an example of a super violent eruption?
Mount St. Helens.
Mount St. Helens wasn't terribly. I mean, if we look at comparisons.
Krakatoa.
Krakatoa. Krakatoa is one that you're like, wow, that one, we'll remember that one. Mount St. Helens, we're like, oh, it's the only one to happen in the United States. Anyways.
Would Mount St. Helens be a Plinian type?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Hawaiian is the most violent type. And this usually happens because the vent gets plugged. Right, so if you do the Diet Coke and Mentos experiment, and you have an open bottle of Coke and you just drop a Mentos in, it'll start exploding, which is cool. More like our Plinian. But if you drop the Mentos in and then shut the top, you're going to want to back away. You might not have a good day. Don't do that. Yeah, the most violent type. Then we have the Surtsian. Right, similar to the Strombolian, except it's underwater and eventually forms an island. Named after the Surtsey Island off the coast of Iceland. It's now an island. One day there was a bunch of steam eruptions. That's very important to understand. Underwater equals steam eruptions until it turns into an island and then it's above the water. Okay? Then we have the Icelandic. It's a fissure eruption. Usually several miles. And it's usually basaltic. In comparison to our flood basalts, which can be hundreds of kilometers long and massive amounts of basalt. And then our last one is the directed blast, or the avalanche. Just like Mount St. Helens, over steep in your slope, get a big explosion, go boom. Now, there are certain features related to volcanism. I want to go over things associated with the volcano, and then we'll talk about the plutonic stuff. So, volcanic features. Right, we have a fumarole, which is basically a vent above the magma chamber on your volcano that's emitting gases. We can have our lava tubes. Then you can have what's called a mar. This is the collapse of a small volcano into its chamber. Right, its magma chamber. Empty. So you have a small magma chamber, you have a violent eruption, but it's small, and then the entire thing falls in on itself and fills up with water. Now this is similar to two other things we talked about, our crater and our caldera. Crater is at the top of a volcano, and it is less than 1 kilometer wide. A caldera is greater than 1 kilometer, and again, it's a collapsed volcano. If you were to think of one example of a caldera, what would you pick? The Yellowstone caldera. Yep. Very confusingly, Crater Lake is a caldera, but they call it Crater Lake. So, but it's a caldera. They should have called it Mount Mazama Lake, because that sounds way cooler. But who am I? I'm just a geologist. And then plutonic. What is Pluto? Who is Pluto? In Roman times.
The fire guy?
Fire guy? A little more specific. Where's the fire?
On his head.
On his head.
Hades.
Hades, right? God of the underworld. So now we're talking about a little bit about how rocks cool underground and what they're called. So plutonic bodies. And to talk about this, we have to talk about our concordant and discordant terms. Concordant basically means parallel. So you have sedimentary rocks, and right here we inject some magma. We call this a sill. Discordant cuts across. We've got our parallel lines. We have a magma body that comes in, cuts across. We call this a dike. If you have parallel layers and you inject magma here and it lifts it up, right, we're no longer completely parallel. We call this a laccolith. These are both discordant. This is concordant. And if you have a magmatic body that is larger than 100 kilometers squared in areal extent, we call it a batholith, aka like the Sierra Nevada batholith. If it's less, we call it a stock. The Alta stock, right? The Bingham Canyon stock. So Sierra Nevadas, very large mountain range, Alta Stock, one tiny little place near Park City. All right, if you can do what I just did, no problem. If you can't do what I just did, you're probably still fine. Does anybody have any questions that I haven't covered? It's 50 questions. 2 of them are extra credit. There's 5 of them that are short answer, like enter in 1 word. There's one that's 1 sentence. It shouldn't be too bad. Before you leave, well, if you're not going to come on Monday, I just wanted to tell you guys that I really appreciate you guys coming to class. This was a great semester. If you ever have any geology questions, I'm always open. Just send me an email. If you ever want to go on a field trip and you need information, I'll give you everything I have. Just send me an email. I'd be more than happy to do that. So I will see you on Monday. Good luck on the test. Thank you. Yep.
Monday after classes, and then put it back in the student.
Yep. Yep. I don't think they give you access to classes. Let me do some research and I'll send you an email in like an hour and a half or so. I might be able to access old exams and then I'll just post old exams up there and use that as a guide. So we usually take old exams and then just qualify them. So, yeah.
So on Monday,
Oh, can you hand me my, I got stuff.